Hello there, and welcome to episode 3 of Bay City Polars, which is the music podcast where we're setting out to try and create the 30 greatest ever Scottish songs. To do that, we are carrying out a whole bunch of polls on Twitter X. Been doing that for a while now. We've done the 70s and the 80s, and we're just finished the 90s, which we'll talk about tonight. And we've got a bit to go, obviously, from the noughties onwards. And to help us, I guess, work through that and find a definitive list at the end, we've obviously got some friends from our podcast panel. So let me do some introductions tonight. So we have our resident Bay City Polar, Caroline Binnie. Good evening, Caroline.
Good evening, Brian.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good. Thanks again for coming on. I don't know what I'd do without you. Uh, don't answer that. So we also have a couple of guests tonight. So our first guest tonight is the Scottish actor and rumoured to be the next manager of St Johnstone FC, Colin McCredie. Colin, good evening.
Hi, now just what I've got a dog sitting on me, so hopefully she'll behave.
Oh,
I was trying to get rid of her, but she's come and sat right on top of me. So
dogs are encouraged.
hopefully there'll be no barking.
Not at all, mate. Don't worry about
We
that. Nice to,
disagree over anything.
yeah, bark twice for no, right?
Yeah,
Nice to see you, mate. Thanks for coming on.
no problem.
And we also have another first timer tonight, who is amongst other things, the station manager for Cumbernauld FM,
Cumbernauld. What's it
uh,
called?
Gerry Duffy. So
Yes,
Jerry's coming to tell us how to actually make a good podcast, rather than what we normally do. How you doing, Jerry?
I'm very well, thanks, and I appreciate the invite.
No, listen.
Any opportunity to talk crap about music, I'll be there.
Well, you'll get plenty of that tonight. So we've had two episodes. So what we'll do tonight is we'll have a little bit of a recap on how we've got to where we are for you guys, and obviously for anyone who's sort of joining us on episode 3. And then we'll have a little chat about 1990s, which I guess we've just come out the back of that now from a lot of votes and stuff that we did on Twitter X. So maybe just to kick us off, I'll open this one to Jerry and Colin. So myself and Caroline have been sort of wading through this a little bit for the last 2 or 3 months. You guys will have seen a wee bit of kicking about on
Yes,
Twitter X. Just sort of any general observations about how it's all going?
I think I'm really impressed by the amount, what highlights the amount of really good Scottish music there's been since maybe not the 60s, the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Hmm.
And it's just incredible. I'm of the age where I was going to gigs and everything in the 70s. So I've got a load of 70s stuff, 80s stuff, not so much the late 90s, but it's just incredible when you see it all written out and you go, I forgot about this, I forgot about that. So it's been really good as a kind of aid memoir to go, great. But picking things is, I can't even pick my best 5 Beatles albums. Never mind best 5 Beatles songs. So
Yeah,
I'm terrible at picking because it's like cutting the child into, which, I can't do it. I
which
think I just find it
which
terrible.
Colin's referred to on at least what 2 occasions now. I think Colin, when I push you on giving us a 5, you've said that it's a favourite child thing. No, I can't do that.
Yeah.
No, it was like the whole poll and all of this is so right up my street, but I tried to narrow it down to 5 songs and I couldn't. I felt like I was cheating on some of my favourite bands by
I
not
totally agree
having
with you,
them
Colin.
in. And then I think I'd seen you and I was saying, is it songs or singles? Do you know what I mean? Because the singles that I love by bands that I don't love, but if it's songs, that's an even more difficult thing. So I've absolutely loved watching it. I get annoyed when you do the poll and I'm maybe at the football or something,
Yeah,
or I'm out. So I was pleased that you did one over the weekend when it was in the middle of the storm, because I think
yeah,
everyone was in.
yeah. We actually
But
thanks for that. We actually brought it forward today for that reason, and it worked out really well. We had lots of good chat and stuff. So past 12 hours and kept us all at home, which was good. And we've covered a massive amount of ground. I think when we started this, we weren't entirely sure how it was going to go. And I think, Caroline, it was something like with 4 or 5 thousand song nominations at the beginning.
Wow.
Crazy.
Lots of doublers and stuff, obviously, not all different, but sifting through them and then trying to get to a quorum that we thought was reasonably representative of what A, the guys were nominating, which is quite important, and then B, how we saw sort of Scottish music. And 70s and 80s down, we're kind of getting there. It's been painful, and we're very upset with some songs that haven't made the list. But that's kind of part of the chat, I think, isn't it? It's just the way it is. It's all about opinions. So
Yes.
cool. All righty. So what we'll do is we'll give you a little bit of a summary of how we got to where we are, and then any questions, comments, shout out, and then we'll have a proper chat about the 90s. All right. Right. Sorry, Carla, you get anything else you want to add? Because you've propping this up for 3 months now.
Oh,
So
I'm happy to let the other guys get on with it tonight.
all right, perfect. Well, you feel free to come in. So
Mhm.
you always do. Right, let me find. Hopefully this will work, guys. So apologies, it doesn't look as cool as I thought it might. So what we had basically to the left-hand side is the first poll that we did, and those songs on there are the 19 songs that ended up getting the 50% minimum threshold or better. So for anything to go through, it has to get 50% or more in a sort of fairly democratic way. And the only exception to that is where the panel gets the chance to add a song back in, which you guys have got the chance to do tonight. So you can see left-hand side, everything from Average Right Band
Yeah.
through to the Skids and kind of
Right.
everything in between. Pretty good list. I think your comment's a fair one, Jerry, that, certainly 60s was, fairly fallow. But there's a lot of great stuff in the 70s there.
And maybe
Yeah.
worth saying that the thing that the panel added into that particular list was we added Scars and Horror Show. It
We
didn't
did.
hit 50, but it was our choice between me and Ali to go through.
That's right. We had Ali, it was on that one, and I think we also put Marmalade back on as well.
Yes.
Caroline, is that right?
Yes.
Because we wanted to have a bit of a 60s representation as well. But the others were all 50% or more, so I mean it's a pretty solid list, I think.
Yeah.
Thing is, I thought I was too young to remember the 1970s, but it's an absolutely brilliant list, and
Yes.
considering that's all Scottish bands, the only one that I would swap "Stuck in the Middle with You" by Star by Steelers Wheel, because that's my favourite Steelers Wheel song.
Right.
That'd be my only petty argument. But yeah, some great songs in there. Do you know what I mean? And I virtually know every single one, which is kind of surprises me.
Good. Well, that's good. And we've obviously been sticking playlists onto Spotify and stuff to go along with this. And to be honest, Colin, we've kind of had that comment a lot that it's almost been a little bit of a kind of reawakening for a
Yeah.
lot of guys going back, either remembering it but not having listened to it for a long time, or for a lot of people not have hearing a lot of these songs. I mean, Carly mentioned the Scars there, and bands like the Scars, I think, other than our sort of small world of Scotland, maybe didn't quite have the reach out there that, they should have done. But, guys listening to the list have come back and said some of this stuff's brilliant. So,
Right. That's a band that I have to say I'm kind of quite up on music, and I don't remember. I've probably if I listened to it, but I don't remember it.
well, we
It might be
kind
one of those things. If you were in the 70s, if you can remember the 70s, you weren't really there,
I
kind of
think
thing.
they featured on the documentary, didn't they? The
Yes.
Grant McPhee's one. So I again wasn't aware of them,
Mhm.
but from watching that film, I then became aware of them. And it's like all things, once you hear about something you've never heard, you then hear about it all the time.
Yeah.
And interestingly, for anybody that happens to be going to the Creeping Ben event on Thursday, Paul Research of Scars will be playing electric violin on stage with Port Sulphur.
Cool.
looking
Wonderful.
forward to that.
It'll be good.
That'll be magic. So, yeah, so that was
Well,
70s. So we had
Sorry, can I just say that
Sorry, Jack.
I'd written down my homework and I find it difficult to get top five or top, what you said, have a look at your top five songs.
I did.
Faith Healer, because I was lucky enough to see Alec Harvey Band 3 times, possibly
Wow.
4, I can't remember. And Faith Healer, it was just an incredible song live as well. Also, Pick Up the Pieces. I saw the Average White Band in the Apollo. I was only a small child at the time, but I remember them. And it was just so different, and just an incredible bit of music from guys from Edinburgh, Dundee, and Glasgow.
Perth.
In Perth,
Bruce
sorry.
Scorey's by Perth.
Perth, sorry.
You
I was
know,
thinking
we
about
can
the
claim
Dundee
Fiction
Horns.
Factory, but we're definitely getting Bruce Scorey from Perth.
Right.
Very good.
Up north, then.
Oh.
Up north, yeah. Out in the sticks. Yeah, great list. Very eclectic. And some of my favourite songs are on there. I'm a bit of a 70s child, to be honest, so love that. Then we obviously flicked into the 80s, and we knew the 80s was going to be chunky. You know, one way or another, Scotland almost kind of, I guess, found its voice really in the 80s with music. And a lot of the nominations that were coming through kind of represent that. So if you have a kind of bell curve of nominations, there was more for the 80s than there was for any other decade. So we had a whole chunk of stuff to vote through. I think we had like 7 or 8 orange juice songs and all that stuff to do. But we done that, cracked on. So what we ended up with eventually was the list on the right hand side. So that's a kind of A to Z, which gives us from I Could Be Happy down to Fisherman's Blues. And in parallel to all of that, we then started to have some of those voting debates about kind of what Scottish bands were and weren't. Because there's no definition really about what
Yeah.
makes you a Scottish band or a Scottish artist. So that was as much fun, I guess, as actually
Yeah.
doing the votes themselves.
It's the politics of it, isn't it? Where do you
Yeah.
draw the line between them being... It's like talking about Glasgow bands. Do you put it around the city boundary, or do you include everything, like the Trascan Sinatras? Do you include... What's a Scottish band? Is it one person? Is Lloyd Cole? I totally get that.
Yeah. So for great example, Lloyd Cole, not Scottish. Lloyd Cole and the Commotions, Scottish.
Right.
That was basically how we landed that. And if we were in doubt, we went and asked the guys on Twitter. And to be fair, they've been pretty good at it. There's not been too many bun fights. I think there's a couple that who did we argue about the other time, Caroline? Was it KLF or someone?
KLF a bit, but also I think the Blow Monkeys, was there not a bit of a Blow Monkeys debate online?
Yeah, from Robert Howard, I
Yes,
might add.
yes.
Robert Howard came on to the chat and said, "What? Why the Blow Monkey's not on it?" So just kind of silence, from our end, because he was born in Haddington, Robert,
Right.
which we kind of knew, but he moved away when he was, very young, and he lived in Kings Lynn, and he emigrated to Australia, and we kind of knew all that, but we hadn't voted on it. I think was what he was
Right.
moaning about. So they're not there, although they're one of my favourite bands. So.
Did you then you would need to think about Dire Straits, because the Knopfler brothers were allegedly born in the Gorbals.
We
But
we voted on them, Jerry.
oh, did you?
Yeah, we
Sorry.
did, mate. Yeah,
Apologies.
yeah, they were out. But Mark Knopfler was in. We allowed him in solo.
All right.
So we've been reasonably fair about it, I think. David Byrne was in solo, but not Talking Heads, that kind of stuff. So we ended up on the right hand side with 42 songs that got 50% or more. Plus the odd one that we added back in again. What did we add in, Caroline? Do you remember for it?
I added in the Fire Engines, Get Up and Use Me, and Donna added in Bronski Beat and Small Town Boy, I do believe.
Okay. No, Donna nominated that one for our
Oh
diet
yes,
top
yeah.
10, didn't she? The Die in the
Yeah.
Hill thing. I think she added in Dick Gone.
Yes, you're right. You're
She
right.
did. And I added in Honey at the Core, Friends Again. But all the other ones were 50% or more. And the other thing to bear in mind for Gerry and Colin is that we also have a 2 songs per artist rule,
Yeah.
which is even more difficult to manage. So again, Lloyd Cole, Aztec Camera, Orange Juice, Big Country, I think there was 5 or 6 of these guys all had maybe 3, 4, 5 nominations. Simple Minds, I think, might have had 5 or 6. So we actually had to then do voting parties just for them to get them down to the favourite 2 for that. And it's painful, but we had a bit of a kind of house rule that we just want it to be a reasonably broad reflection of the great Scottish music's out there, not a kind of postcard playlist,
Mhm.
which is great if that's what you want to do, but we kind of want it to be a bit more than that. So as you can see, hopefully, as you see down there, everybody's got maximum of 2 on there,
Yeah.
which is cool. Anything, anything we've missed on that list? Because again, there are some absolute bellwethers there. Anything jumping out at you that's not on?
I'm surprised that Love and Money didn't make something onto That would be my only. And as I say, you got Friends Again on. Friends Again is Trapped and Unwrapped is one of my top
Hmm.
Scottish albums of all time, but never had that mass appeal. Yeah, I'm surprised Love and Money didn't sneak on.
Yeah, that's a good point, Colin. I think we had Jocelyn Square on
Maybe
and
Windsor or Candy Bar
Winter's
Express.
in the 90s.
Oh, right, so they do
Yeah,
get in the
well,
90s, right?
we'll
Aye,
come
well,
on
there
to
you
that.
go.
But he had a couple and didn't quite make it,
Yeah.
which was a shame. So maybe we'll get him on at some point.
I
So
think
that,
the thing about the 80s thing is a lot of the songs by the most popular, but well, a lot of the bands are probably their most famous songs.
Yeah.
And for me, after listening for a lot of these songs for, I don't know, close to 40 years, they are now maybe not my favourite songs just because they're so popular. But that's just my personal feelings about them, if you know what I mean.
yeah,
I agree with that, and I
You know
think
what I mean?
we'll probably come back to that point when we look at the 90s as well.
Yeah, the most popular obviously rises to the top, which again, that's we're making it about the greatest Scottish songs. So I suppose it is going to probably be the most popular.
it's a really
But yeah, I would probably buy a lot of those bands. If you just pick my favourite, it probably wouldn't be those ones.
it's a really nice discussion that we'll get into again because as we get towards the end of it, we're going to have some sort of finals, if you want, that we're going to need to do vote-offs on. And I think we're keen to try and find a way for that not to just be which song do I know the most
Yeah,
and I
Yes.
voted through because the guys are voting on it. There is a bit of a quorum, which is a bit sort of Scottish centric, if you want. But
yeah,
obviously, when the voting starts and people like retweeting stuff like that, there are guys just picking it up, saying, "All right, there's a vote on. Oh, I really like that Orange Juice song or whatever."
yeah.
So that's a good thing. But the ripples go quite far. We've got I think there's like 30 countries maybe that take part in the voting when we get comments and
Wow.
stuff. So, which is great. A lot of expats and stuff out there, but they've all got the various knowledge levels of what they like and don't like. And there's a good example of it, which we'll come on to the 90s, and I'll mention that one to you. So we ended up with sorry, one PS to that because I think I said it the last time, and I don't know if this is right or wrong, but one of the things that Bobby Bluebell says is that songs are only great if lots of people know them. They have to be popular to kind of have an element of greatness to them, or why would they be great type thing if like one person in the room thinks it's great. That's just a personal opinion. If a million,
Well, I suppose that's the proof in the pudding that the songs that are voted for are the probably the best known rather than the
yeah,
best.
yeah,
But that can sometimes be because people haven't had an opportunity to hear them because they've not had radio play or they've not had good
Mhm.
distribution or they're signed to a smaller label that doesn't have a big, PR operation. So I suppose that's kind of one of the things I like about some of the lesser known things on this list that hopefully people will go and explore them and give them a bit more of an opportunity.
yeah, totally, Caroline. And Bluebell's a great example. So you can see Young and Heart and I'm Falling are on there, which is
Mhm.
great on
And
merit.
also, you've got to remember, Bobby talks a lot of rubbish. Can you cut that out?
We'll be getting them on soon. But
Okay.
they had Will She Always Be Waiting on there, which, everybody who knows that song loves it, right?
Yeah,
But again,
absolutely.
probably not as well known as two or three of their sort of bigger songs. So it's just the way it is. But it's a great list, really happy with it.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah. So that
I
ended up 42 songs on that one. So what is that? 61 songs so far. Okay. Right, and then we did the 90s. So the nominations for the 90s weren't quite at the 80s level, but weren't far off. And we just finished them, I think, about a week, 10 days ago there. So I'll show you hopefully what we ended up with. All right, so we did that. Yeah, that's a bit of fun with this one. So every time we've been doing this, somebody's come on and said, "What about?" Every time. So every time we've been getting into another decade, somebody said, "Why have you not talked about ABCD?" And most of the time we went back and voted on them just to give them the chance. So as an example, at the beginning, we voted on AC/DC and they were voted out. Doesn't make it right or wrong, they just were as a Scottish artist.
yeah,
So, and people keep saying, "What about AC/DC? What about
yeah.
Ross Stewart? What about whatever?" So,
Has
so
anyone suggested Coldplay?
no, I don't think so. Because,
I think one of them's from Kirkcaldy.
is that right? Didn't know that.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm surprised that's not come up.
no,
I,
we had
I
Thin
think
Lizzy the
there's
other day.
Then
I think
Lizzie.
Sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I think you start to clutch at straws. It's a wee bit like, the Jack Charlton's Irish football team. That if you had a pint of Guinness, you qualified as Irish. I think if the bass player or somebody that's not the main songwriter, not the main vocalist, is happens to be Scottish, does that make you? I mean, actually, Ian, whose name I can't remember, was the keyboard player with the Stones, and he was
Yeah.
there pushed out.
Sure, Ian Stewart.
Sure.
Ian Stewart, because he didn't look the part, he was kind of airbrushed out, but he was a mainstay of the Stones in their touring, and
So
you
are the
wouldn't call the
Stones Scottish
Stones.
then?
Sorry,
Are the Stones Scottish then?
well, that's what I'm saying. You get to
Don't
you,
claim them.
yeah, nah.
Yeah.
I think it depends who it is and what part did they write all the songs and everything. I think that would be a no-no for me if it wasn't. But that's just my opinion.
So don't forget, Jerry, that when we started all this at the beginning, I think the first bunch we had were, bands like, I don't know, Proclaimers and stuff like that, right? So the Proclaimers didn't get 100%
Right.
on the vote, right? Are they Scottish? So we have a bit of a view. We think Charlie and Craig probably voted against it just for just to be doing a bit of fun, but also Big Country, which I think were voted higher than the Proclaimers. None of Big Country were born in Scotland.
Right.
So
I didn't know that.
again, you're kind of some of those things that you've just always just taken for granted forever, one way
Yes.
or another, start to get challenged a bit for you. So it's became very interesting. But these three were came off the back of Grant McPhee, so I just put them up there because we did it for fun. So Grant did one of his little story posts that he does from time to time, and he was basically picking at anything that might be remotely Scottish and trying to
Mhm.
adopt him. And three of the bands that he gave a bit of a blurb on were Buzzcocks, Clash, and Sex Pistols. So we stuck it out to the vote. Sex Pistols from memory because Johnny Rotten wears tartan a lot. And I think 8% was probably Grant, I guess, and a couple of other people that voted for that one. And the Clash because Strummer's mum was Scottish. And
Right.
again, a bit of a kind of conversation about, that kind of genetic thing. And the Buzzcocks, I think Shelley's surname's McNeish, I think. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, is that right? So again, he's obviously from Scottish stock and all that stuff. But again, it was amazing. As soon as we did that again, we got guys coming on and saying, I think the last one we had was Thin Lizzy. What about Thin Lizzy? And we
Right.
said, well, what about them? And
Guitarist.
they started rattling off all the guitarists and stuff that were in the band. But I thought, well, it's Phil Lynnett's band, isn't it? Really? But again, so we haven't voted on that one, but there are still others out there that I guess is up for debate with some people,
Coldplay.
like Coldplay. Colin, there'll be a Coldplay vote winging its way out there
I don't
over
even
the
really
weekend.
like Coldplay, but it's just one of those random things that I know that the bass player was born in Kirkcaldy.
Yeah, but I'm not sure we want to adopt him, do
No.
No.
we?
Correct answer.
That's shocking. Okay, right. So, and a bit the kind of teeth of the chat, if you want. So, as I say, we just finished the 1990s there, and it was good fun. And sweet spot for me was probably 80s with a bit of 70s. I mean, I like 90s stuff, but I know, Colin, you've mentioned that you've got a lot more 90s kind of stuff there. So, it's quite interesting listening and seeing the voting and getting the comments from lots of people when you're not as intertwined to the music as you would be with some of the others. So what we ended up with were 21 songs. It's actually 25 songs originally. So those four in yellow I'll come on to. So it's 25 songs that get 50% or more on the vote. They're in order of voting, I think. Yeah. So the most popular song was A Girl Like You from Edwin, and the one that scraped in at the bottom was Sometimes Always by the Jesus and Mary Chain, and everything else was in for 50 up. So again, pretty good list, I think, when you look at it.
Hmm.
So I'll let you peruse that while I just explain the yellows. So what we then did was we then had some of the bands that had more than two songs that were 50% or more. So we invoked our two song rule, and we then had some voters on Twitter X. So basically for Primer Scheme, for example, that was putting the 4 or 5 songs on that they had, and they had to pick the top two. So voting against each other pretty much.
Mhm.
So they voted out moving on up, which I was a bit surprised at, and come together, but kept on Loaded and Rocks.
Which was the wrong decision.
What would you have kept, Carling?
I would have kept either of the other two above Rocks because, I mean, they're both off Screamadelica, which is undoubtedly their best album, and they've both got Denise Johnson on them.
Mm-hmm.
Bless her.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree really. I was a bit surprised that Rocks came through, but it was quite tight for memory, I think. I don't think there was a lot in it, but I guess there has to be a top two, which we can change, of course, if we choose to. So they get voted out. I think Della Mitre was a bit of a cock up on behalf of the host. So basically what happened was that we
Who's
voted on,
that?
that's someone else is not on tonight. We voted on it and we didn't realise we'd voted on it, right? And
That sounds like Parliament.
and then when we went to do a kind of vote off on it, we never had it. So we'd already decided what the two songs were. And then someone says, well, what about Always Last to Know? Because it got 64%. And we thought, oh, bugger, so it did. So we had to do like another sort of wash up vote again. And what we ended up with was Be My Downfall and
Driving with the brakes on.
Drive Me Brakes On. Thank you, Colin. And the reason I'm flagging that is that it takes us on to another chat that we're going to have it towards the back end of this, is that's Della Michi have now got 3 songs in the finals because they've got these two plus Nothing Ever Happens from the 80s. So we're going to have to take a view at some point on whether we obviously re-invoke the two song rule by the end once we've done all the decades, or whether we allow it to kind of bleed into different decades, and guys like them will end up with maybe 3 or 4 songs the final, which I'm not too sure about. But anyway, that's the list. Some absolute belters on there. I can't think anything that I would be sitting going, why is that on there? It's not very good. Garbage was the other one, Caroline, the other Scottish band, wasn't
Yes,
it?
yes, we had a bit of a debate about that, I think, you, me, and Donna.
We did. What's your views on that one, guys? Garbage, a Scottish band?
Eh,
Shirley and all that?
I would probably have them on based upon Shirley Manson being a mainstay of like the Scottish music scene with
Yeah.
Goodbye Mr. Mackenzie and then Angelfish, and her being such a a high profile lead singer. Yeah, I could split hairs on it, but as
I
they're
think
actually
so,
really
yeah.
good as well, I'm quite happy to claim them.
Okay, cool. So were we. So Amber like the man. She's pretty cool, isn't she? Let's get them in there. It's also a nice another little mix of different songs as well, which was working pretty well. So that was the 21 that we ended up with for the 90s. So I think, if you ticked that and moved on, you could argue about it, but it's not a bad list of songs, right? However, there's a glut of pretty good songs that didn't make the cut. So I'm going to flag those up for you. So what you have got the chance to do here is to pick a song from either these 4 on the yellows here that were voted out, or from the next list I show you, and you can put them back in to the finals, and they just go through. If you nominate one, it's through. It's
Is
not up
that 90s only?
for just for this list, Jerry.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
just the 90s, mate. So I'll pull this up. So apologies because there's quite a lot of them.
Wow.
Okay, so as I say, we voted a lot of stuff. I'll leave you to peruse a little bit because there's some stonking songs on there. So these are in order of the percentage vote. So Colin, you mentioned earlier on Love and Money, so you can see Winter was 49%, which again, it sort of, thought it was going to get over 50 and just didn't. Likewise, Everything Flows and Black Eyed Boy, so Black Eyed Girl, sorry. So, there's stuff there that was very close to getting automatically voted through and didn't. And then as you sort of run down it, you'll see that the percentages go down, but some of the songs are amazing on the list. So over to you, basically. You've all got the opportunity to put one back into the finals. if you so wish to do so.
I'm happy to go for that. I'd quite happy to listen to what other people's suggestions were first. So I keep my options open.
Okay, so your initial thought was winter. Is that what you're saying?
No,
No.
not that I've seen this.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
I'll hold you out on that then.
I'll keep my counsel.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
You can have one each. We don't have to agree on it.
Yeah.
This is like getting into a sweetie shop, you know, and saying, a bag's this, a Glasgow expression, a bag's this, a bag's that.
Yeah.
I would be happy if I'm going to give you three just off the top, just right away, as winter, Ain't That Enough, and the Beta Band Dry the Rain,
Okay.
which is great. But I'm really disappointed that I haven't seen Aztec Cameras Killerman Street, which I think is an incredible Scottish song. And I'm a big Roddy Frame fan.
Gerry, that would have been 80s though.
Mm-hmm.
I know that, but it wasn't in the 80s, and none of them.
No.
So,
No, you voted off. Yeah.
Yeah,
It did get more than 50%, Gerry, just to be clear, but when they had, I think there was 4 maybe Aztec cameras, so they had to
Right,
vote them,
okay.
and they voted them down to 2, and Killamon Street missed out, which was a shame. So,
I'll go in a silent huff.
Carly, what are you thinking?
Well, I've got 3 shortlisted, 2, but unfortunately they're not the same as Gerry's, so we haven't got a consensus there yet.
Okay.
I would go with Serious Drugs.
Mhm.
I would go with One Dove, White Love, because I think it's a genre that's not really represented on the other list, and it's certainly very 90s.
Mhm.
And then finally, just always picking Davy Henderson, so the Nectarine number 9, Unloaded for You, which only got 6%, but I would give it 96%.
Yeah, but it's a great 6%, wasn't it? Yeah.
Probably on me.
Not at all. No, I mean, again, probably I think the don't knows on that were pretty high, if I remember, Caroline. So
Yeah,
again,
yeah, they
one
would
of those
be.
songs that you would love if you heard it, you know. Okay, okay. So I
And
guess
I would I would throw Happiness in. I didn't see it. Happiness, Blue Nile. But I would vote Tinseltown as one of my top.
Yeah.
Really, right, finals top Scottish song, right
Okay.
up there. So I probably wouldn't put Happiness in. But it's an amazing song. But anyway.
If it helps you, and I don't know if it does help, but um, if you nominate, for example, Ain't That Enough, which is an amazing song, right? But there's every chance at some point we'll have to revisit that because it will mean that Teenage Fan Club have got more than 2 songs
Yes,
in the final. So it maybe will stay in, but
You've got to vote cleverly, Gerry.
right.
tactical voting.
Tactical vote. Good choices from the Caroline and Gerry there. I think you should go for Winter, Gerry, by Love and Money.
Yes.
The three that I would go for are I'm probably going to pick less well-known bands, but that doesn't mean that the songs aren't any less good, in my opinion.
Not at all.
And also 3 bands I would love to see in, the final list. So it would be the Bathers, Kelvin Grove Baby, just because Chris Thompson is such a pedigree from Friends Again through the Bathers, Bloomsday, and I think the Bathers records are some of the best records over the past 30 years. He's a major talent, and I love that song, and it's such a Scottish song, such a Glasgow song. I would also consider Trashcan Sinatra's and Obscurity Knocks, which was their very first single, recorded at Shabby Road. And I remember that coming out and just absolutely loving that single and still loving it. And the other one's a bit left field. A band that I used to go and see a lot before they were signed every Sunday night at the St. James Oyster Bar. And I thought that they were going to be one of the biggest Scottish bands ever. Around about the time Delamitri were sort of hitting that kind of country tinge sort of rock, and that's the Lost Soul Band. With You Can't Win Them All, Mum. I think Gordon Graham's a brilliant songwriter, great singer, and I absolutely loved the Lost Soul Band. And to this day, I'll never know why they didn't end up playing stadiums. They were a great band. So that would be my 3 lesser well-known Scottish bands.
Okay. So as I do with the guys on Twitter X and we do on every episode, then you have to get off the pot, right? So 'cause I'm not going to pick them for you. So you're allowed one each. So I think we're running at about 9 or 10 nominations there. So I will go back to Caroline to start then. Caroline, what song would you like to fall on your sword for?
I will go for One Dove.
One Dove. Lovely. Great song. Thank you.
I have a
Gerry,
question.
go on.
Is there any other Trash Can Sinatra songs in anywhere?
Weightlifting's in the
Right.
2000s voting.
Right, okay.
It's not been voted on yet, but it's
Right,
coming up.
okay, cool. Right, I will. La, 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 la. Is there Love and Money? Are they anywhere?
No.
Right, I'll pick Love and Money, Winter.
Winter. Thank you. Colin.
Brian, would you like to be my Kelvin Grove baby?
Oh, wouldn't adjust, mate. Wouldn't adjust. Back to your five picks again, isn't it? Doesn't get any
Yes.
easier.
Yeah, no, Kelvin Grove baby by the Bathers. The Bathers just have to be there.
Yeah, agreed. Love them. Okay, brilliant. It saves me picking them as well, since I picked Friends again, I think, in the 80s. What was the one I was going for? Oh yeah, Dry the Rain, Beta Band. Yeah. As a Scottish person, I'd never heard a band like the Beta Band. Just, if you'd asked me where they were from, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Although I knew they were Scottish, but I would never have known that from listening to them. I thought they were amazing, to be honest. And again, wasn't quite sure why they didn't become this kind of phenomenon that other
Yeah, after
bands.
being in, they featured heavily in the film of the book. John Cusack, whose name I can't remember.
High Fidelity.
Yes.
High Fidelity, yeah. One of my favourite films about music, and them being in it really highlighted it to me. And I mean, got their stuff fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant, mate. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we've got Kelm Grove Baby, we've got Winter, we've got Wind Dove, and we've got Dry the Rain. So that 42, I think, becomes 46 then. I think that's right. Cool. Magic, I'll add them back in, and they're all very worthy add-ons. Okay, good stuff. So we're back out the slide chart. We're going to have a bit of a wash up on where we're going, I guess, from here. So there's a couple of things really to maybe pick up on. One is about getting Gerry and Colin, if they're so minded, to give us one song that they believe must be in the final top 10. And we obviously are noting these down. If it helps, we've got 2 so far. We have Small Town Boy from Donna McLean, and we have Just Like Honey from Caroline.
And is that all Scottish songs from every year?
From Harry Lauder to
Jimmy Shand.
Rhiann Downey and everything in between. So
Right.
yeah, so it's one song, and we'll see. Obviously, some of them may well be in the top 10, but who
Right.
knows? So, but it's for posterity, so I'll give you a second to think about that.
I don't need to think. I'm going to go. I'll go early, Colin. So in case you
then.
pick the same one. I think it was having lived through the 70s and hearing all sorts, and 60s as well. But when I'd heard, early kind of other tracks from them. But what Tinseltown in the Rain literally stopped me in my tracks, and it was I had to go and pick. I think it was my sister-in-law from a night out in the town, and it was a Saturday night, raining, driving down through not the nicest place to drive through, round down Blythswood Square down to the old Anderson bus station, and looking for my sister-in-law standing outside a pub. And at that time, it wasn't the nicest bit of Glasgow. and that was playing on the radio, and it's just an incredible piece of music and completely different in my musical experience to anything, and it still stands the test of time. And I think it's an amazing piece of work. And Paul Buchanan is, although I'm a huge Frankie Miller fan, different type of voice. Paul Buchanan has got a achingly amazing voice. So I'm picking Tinseltown in the Rain.
Perfect. We'll take that, mate. Okay, Colin, what's your thoughts?
I'm going to go, again, if we're coming to the best Scottish songs, I'm going to go for A Girl Like You by Edwyn Collins, because I think, interestingly, and retrospectively, it's the song that kind of saved Edwyn Collins' life. Financially, I think at the time, in the mid-90s, he released it independently. It became a worldwide hit. It's such a brilliant song. It's one of the most catchy songs. It's got the coolest instruments. It's got the coolest just vibe about it. I was so delighted for him at the time to have that big hit. And then when he had his brain hemorrhage, if you read Grace's book, the fact that they'd earned that money and had the money in the bank and had that income stream, they could afford to have private medical care with like his rehabilitation. Although the NHS did save his life, I think they put it down to being able to have that extra bit of money to pay for extra help. Really got Edwyn back on his feet and got him back singing. And I just love the song. I just think it's, obviously I love Orange Juice as well, but in terms of a big, cracking, fill the dance floor pop song, it's just the best. Yeah. And I have one of my prized possessions above me. I'm going to show you, which is a Edwyn Collins print.
Oh, how fantastic!
Wow, that's brilliant.
And what's interesting about that is it's when it was after he had his hemorrhage, and he taught himself to draw again with his left rather than his right hand, and it's still absolutely brilliant. So
that's magic.
That's one of my favourite things. So so I'll pick Edwyn, and I've got his wee print there as well. So that's going into my song that must be there.
Perfect. That's lovely. And he's kind of still, I know he is going strong anyway because he's got a new song out, but he's actually got a couple of nominations in the 90s as well. The Naughty, Home Again, and I think Dilemma maybe. So again, you can see that, that comeback that you mentioned, Colin, it did kick on, and it became a different type of Edwyn, of course, but all the better for it, really.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, magic. Just kind of when we're talking about songs, so this will obviously cheer Caroline up. So I went and dug out Caroline's 5 nominations. So unlike yourself, Colin, Caroline, stood on top of the hill, right, and called it out. So what you got? Candy Skin, Fire Engines. Did that go through?
Nope.
No. Horror Show, Scars.
Yes, because of intervention.
By you.
Yes.
Joseph K. It's Kind of Funny.
Nope.
Visitors, Electric Heat.
Nope.
And Rosillo's Can't Stand My Baby.
I think it got through a bit anyway. I think Top of the Pops trumped it, but I think it got through the initial stages.
90% sure Rosillo's are in there, and again, I wouldn't tell Faye that they're not. So, and I just dug it out because he's not on, but John Welsh, one of my good friends, John gave us, as John Mood, John gave us 6, of course, not 5. So what?
That's inflation.
Sunshine and Leith, which went through, Somewhere in China, Short Persistence, which didn't, which is a shame. I'm Falling, through Killamont Street, through But Out, American, Simple Minds.
Yeah.
I voted in, but I can't remember if it stayed in. Need to go back and check that. I'm sure it did actually.
No, I don't. I didn't see it in the list.
Not on the list. Okay, that's a no then. And The Boy with the Arab Strap, Bell and Sebastian, which is true. So, yeah, so what's that? 3 for John, which isn't bad actually, to be fair. So we'll keep digging out. George has just given us some for the sort of latest batch. So we always quite like it when Georges don't get picked because it just sends them onto a rant, which doesn't take a lot, to be fair. But so we'll keep checking back on those. So thanks for the guys for the top 10. We'll add them to the list. Thank you. That becomes a bit of the roll of honour. Couple of things just to finish, and I'm just looking just for your initial thoughts on this. So we're going to have about, I say about 100 by the time we finish the noughties, tens, twenties. I think there's going to be about 100 songs that are green that are passed into the finals. So we basically have to get from that 100, which would be a pretty good list, to a final 30, and hopefully some sort of order to that 30. Certainly top 10. We'd want that to be a 10 to 1 thing. I have no idea how we're going to do that. So I'm just looking for some genius inspirations from people who know more than I do. So if you've got any thoughts on the camera, please call them out.
I think
Okay.
could you do it like the FA Cup or like the Scottish Cup? You just randomly draw like head to head, and you do like a playoff, a vote off.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
purely like you don't put like I'm falling against Rip It Up. You would just randomly like pull the balls out, so to speak, warm the balls.
It's funny you
Get Rod
say,
Stewart to do the draw.
Yeah, and do it
Junk.
like and so
Yeah.
it could be Tinsel Times against a girl like you.
And so that sort of, I suppose, the kind of meritocracy argument then goes out the window a little bit, where,
Yeah.
and you're fine, I don't have an answer. So again, I'm just looking for, when you play these things back, particularly on Twitter X, because we've got, a couple of thousand guys joining in. Of course, we then get everybody on, don't we, saying, hold on a minute. But
I know.
actually, I had a bit of a thought on that as well, Colin, which was, I was actually thinking something like the one with the highest vote plays the one with the lowest vote, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
One plays 199
Seeded.
plays two, that kind of idea.
Seeded, unseeded.
A little bit, yeah, random, but seeded random, if that
Yeah, I
makes sense.
suppose you could maybe seed them because obviously the 80 would beat the 50th just by popularity. But you could seed like the top 25 against the lower 25 and then randomly play one against each other.
Maybe, if I had the time and the
This is
effort.
like the UEFA Nations League.
Yeah,
Well,
okay,
Remember that?
I
to put
do.
it in to put it in Scottish football terms, if you're doing it's a wee bit like the Scottish Cup. You don't want the two Glasgow big teams playing each other early in the competition, except if you're one of the ones like St Johnson, you get a better chance of winning it.
You got an empty draw.
Yeah,
You do.
but
Absolutely.
can you not do it in a kind of, as you say, proportional representation? The top 10 after the initial vote. If the top song's Tinseltown, then they play the bottom, and then the second top play the second bottom or whatever. I think that because you might end up losing what some people consider to be the top 10 songs, not in the top 10.
Yeah, but we'll get that anyway. Everyone will consider their songs, won't they?
It's start a army anyway. That's
It
for
will
sure.
start. It will start fucking
I
rally
think it
for
would be
sure.
quite interesting doing a draw. Then you release the draw about who's against who,
Yep.
and then you have that interest spiked about the draw, and then you have like the actual games.
Yeah.
And I suppose you could like the kind of FAQ we could do over 4 days or something. And
I think the idea of the draw, bring Carlin, and I think the idea of the draw is brilliant. And I really like that. I like the randomness of that. I tried to square off how I then get that to a 30 that's got a top 10. I suppose top 10 comes in because there's a winner, isn't there? And then there's a second, then there's a third. I get that, but I'm not sure
yeah,
how
you
we.
get it 50. Yeah, if you did 100, it'd be 50 games. Then 25.
Yeah.
Games. Yeah, you kind of need it to be like a.
You certainly the top 25, I guess, be fairly simple, wouldn't it? So,
Yeah.
all right, Carlin, any thoughts on it?
Just that would actually probably be quite a good way to get a lot of engagement because people would be voting to keep their favourites in
Yeah.
a way that, they wouldn't necessarily if they're just voting straight for them rather than, as preference over something else.
And also, it's a good to see if it is two songs you like. Then I think there's something quite good about having to vote one against another.
Yeah.
Pick your favourite child.
Yeah.
If you,
Yeah.
Yeah, and also, it is about your own opinion, isn't it? So, who's to say that the Lost Soul Band shouldn't be one of the top 10 songs ever, you know? Of course it could. Perfectly reasonable thing to say that. But I think if you put them in a vote off against Simple Minds, for example, there's every chance they won't win that. But if you're in a random draw, then who knows? If they're good enough to be in the 100, then I guess they should get the same chance as everyone else. Yeah?
After the split. You do a split at 50.
Do a split.
And then
I suppose another way would be to put them into groups of like 4 and you pick one goes 3 out of 4 or something.
Okay.
Like you do the Twitter polls sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could put them into, like, as you see, more like football groups. Like in the World Cup, you have groups of 4 and maybe 2 go through or something.
Oh yeah,
6 of one. It'd be 6 of one and a half dozen other.
there's a lot of that on Twitter, and I'm not too sure I've got the time or the inclination to do it, to be honest. And we've got this, and I think you might be in Pedant's Corner, Colin. So I think, we've got quite a few people who correct us on all the things that we get wrong on Twitter, which is usually voting bands out who are voted in.
But I like mistakes. Mistakes are good.
Yeah, our favourite one, which Caroline knows, is we're now dropping in the odd typo on purpose just to get the bites. So the most recent one was Biffy Cairo, and we had at least half a dozen people on correcting us. I'm not sure if you were one of those, Colin, but we had a number.
No, I haven't.
We have to fix that. That's not right, and we just kept putting it back on again as Biffy Cairo. So,
the funniest thing about that, actually, the funniest thing about those things are that the people that are really keen on correcting don't tweet or really engage in anything other than saying you got this wrong. I find that with my own tweet.
They come on and shout at you when they don't like one of the votes.
That's what pedants are, though, I think.
Exactly. No, it's good. And I mean, listen, the guys are interested, aren't they? They wouldn't be reading it. So that, thank goodness for that. I tell a story just to finish. When we started doing the 100 albums, it was quite a long time ago now. And the first vote we did was on, I think, I can't remember if it was Raw Power, but it was one of the Stooges albums. Because we were using the Rolling Stone listing. So it was like 97 or something like that. So we voted on it. And I think we got 3 votes or 4 votes for it, and I'm not sure whether the votes were like me, John, George, and Lisa or something. I'm not too sure anyone actually seen the vote and voted in it. So I remember chatting about it at the time, thinking, bloody hell, this will be hard, but it has changed a lot, and if anything, we're getting almost too much feedback on some of it now, which is just a nice problem to have. So
yeah,
which is really good. Have we missed, and thanks for that feedback. I genuinely don't have the answer, so I will take that away, and we'll see where we get to. Is there anything else that we've missed that you wanted to mention while you were on to do with the voting?
No.
Polls. 2000s have started. We've got 6 votes to do, I think, about 105 songs, something like that. So we'll get another one tomorrow night. So see how that goes. 3 went through the other night, and 14 didn't, or 13 didn't, so get interesting.
What I find quite interesting is that sometimes bands that you love and the songs come up, and even though it's a band you love, I kind of go, I don't think that should be in the greatest.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Ever. And sometimes I feel really bad voting against songs or bands that I love.
Yeah,
I feel really guilty. Nobody knows this, so I'm coming out.
You do now.
Sometimes if I say a no to a band that I love, I feel really bad about myself.
But we actually, Carly knows this. We actually get a list of all the votes from Big Elon. He sorts us out with that stuff now, so we can publish that and be damned if you ever fall out with us. No, you're right, and I think the nice thing for me is that people genuinely are trying to say, actually, on balance, I actually really think that's worthy of a position, or it's not. It's not just your own playlist, is it? So. Okay, cool. Okay, well, first of all, thank you very much for coming on. So you've helped us by getting through the 90s, adding 4 crackers back in, and giving us a bit of a food for thought on the sort of finals, which is great. And please stay involved, because we can't really do it without you guys.
We need your votes.
We do. So Gerry, Colin, and of course Caroline, thank you very much. Really appreciate your time on that. If you are watching it and you want to follow us, we're on at Over Our Wall on Twitter, and something like that in Blue Sky that I can never remember. Are you guys on Blue Sky?
Yes, I am.
I'm too much now. And Instagram, it's something I can't remember that either. I think it's Over Our Wall as well. So so you'll find us if we're out there, and we'll get this onto YouTube and Spotify and stuff, and we'll get that up there when it's ready. I was just going to finish. Somebody mentioned this the other day, and I haven't checked it yet, so the pedants might be out to get me. Somebody told me the other day that at the beginning of the year, was it Wake Me Up Before You Go Go, you know the Wham song?
Yes.
So at the beginning of the year, Wake Me Up Before You Go Go, the date it was released was closer to the end of the date of the Second World War than it was the 1st of January 2025. And I thought, bloody hell, we're doomed. We are
Don't like
doomed.
that.
I
I don't
know.
like that, chat.
So please go and check it for me and no doubt correct me,
No.
but it's not a
I don't
mile
want
out,
to
is
know.
it?
Well, you think of, for example, like I'm Fallen by the Bluebells. That came out 41 years ago.
Yeah.
41
Yes.
years before that was the middle of the Second World War. When I was 12, I wasn't listening to songs by Vera Lynn.
Well, I
But
think
I kind of find
that's
it quite amazing that people
yeah.
still have the connection. My kids are teenagers and they listen to 80s music. I wasn't listening to music from the 1940s. So I think it's something that's pretty amazing about Spotify and things, that you can actually have access to these songs so easily.
Yep.
And what we found out with, ours is a community radio station, the same as Sunny Govan and Cam Glen, is the amount of people who still listen to radio. 10 years ago, people, nobody will be listening, you'll just be listening to Spotify and stuff. People listen to podcasts on the go. Everybody's got access to a way of listening to content, and it's all good because you can listen to anything now. A lot of people hate Spotify but it's a way of getting, and if people are listening to it, it's good, as long as it's good music and it's good content. And I think to finish my wee bit is, again, it highlights the amount of amazing Scottish music there's been since the 60s. And I don't know about the last 10 years, I'll need to refresh yourself, but there's still a lot of good music going on.
Some great stuff coming on the next few polls, Gerry. So keep an eye out for them, mate.
I will do.
And thanks a lot. And I didn't sleep a wink when they told me that one thing. So, so don't let it
There's a lot worse things to think about. If that's the type of thing that keeps you awake, don't tune into American politics.
It's that's the absolute Whamageddon, isn't it? So, Gerry, Colin, Caroline, thanks again for your time, mate. Really appreciate that. Until next time, everyone, guys. That was Bay City Polos. We'll catch you all soon. Stay safe. All the best now.
Good night.
Take care.
Night,
Bye.
folks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.